Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Andy Richards. Your top stories on Tuesday, the 16th of January. Bottom of the league. National survey says Kent has the worst train services in the country.
I used to commute. I'm retired now. I used to commute and there's nothing fun about it. It's just expensive, it's overcrowded.
It's a tip. Medway's fly tipping problem. Councils say they will take action if you offend.
It's totally unacceptable because it affects people's lives, and it really does, not just the cost.
On the road to recovery, dumped pony taken in by charity after it was found starving on New Year's Eve.
She needed help and we got there and realised this was an emergency. It didn't matter that it was New Year's Eve, we just had to do it.
And in sport, Gillingham and Maidstone face off for the first time in 25 years. We look ahead to the Kent derby.
Our top story this evening, passengers have voted Kent's train services by Southern and South Eastern as the worst two in Britain. In a survey by which the 25 providers across the country were ranked on aspects such as customer satisfaction, value for money and condition of carriages. Our reporter Poppy Jeffrey has more.
Commuters have expressed their anger at South Eastern and Southern rail services. Passengers have voted the providers as the two worst rail companies in Britain. In a survey by which, of all 25 in the country, Southern was bottom and South Eastern was second to last. With regards to customer satisfaction rates, South Eastern, which runs services from Strood Station behind me, only scored 39%, but Southern only scored 28%. They both only receive 1 star, the lowest mark possible, for value for money. And the survey comes after both announced record rises in the cost of tickets. Stephen Gash from KCC said they're working hard to improve things.
Sometimes things do go wrong. One of the issues South Eastern are very much aware of and are working closely with Network Rail to put right is trying to get the service back on time when things do go wrong, when there's a delay by a signal problem or a train failure or some such problems, try and get the service back on time. But Kent County Council regards the rail service as a very important part of our transport network in Kent. It's vital getting people to and from London and other places of work, as well as people travelling for leisure and education as well. So we'll continue to work really hard in partnership with South Eastern and Network Rail to make sure we get a better service for all the travellers in Kent.
I spoke to a few passengers to find out what they think about rail services in Kent.
I used to commute. I'm retired now. I used to commute and there's nothing fun about it. It's just expensive, it's overcrowded.
On Saturday afternoons, around about like 12, 1 o'clock, they're really empty, lots of space, but the prices for students, I don't think they really accommodate for students.
It's not anything that really the staff do. I know a couple of people that work there and they all try and do their best, but it's management problems for the most part that is the problem.
South Eastern, which runs the majority of Kent's services, said,
"We are dedicated to making journeys better for our passengers and have invested over £70 million in improving customer service training, train reliability and station facilities as part of a long-term plan for change." The most recent National Rail Passenger Survey results showed that passenger satisfaction has significantly improved. We have seen a 40% growth in passenger numbers in the last decade and acknowledge the concerns about overcrowding and busy peak times, which is why we've already introduced extra carriages on key routes, benefiting our customers on mainline as well as metro services.
It sounds like rail providers are looking to get their train services back on track. This is Poppy Jeffrey for KMTV.
2 teenagers have been sentenced today following the murder of a homeless Romanian man near Maidstone. Razvan Serbu was killed in May last year while sleeping in his tent in Toville. 19-year-olds Charlie White and Alex MacDonald were found guilty of his murder. Harry Peake joins me now to talk a little bit more about the case. So first of all, there was another man involved in the killing, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's right. 20-year-old Jimmy Buckley. He was also convicted on Friday along with White and MacDonald, but it was deemed that he was unfit to plead to murder, so he's going to be sentenced at another date. As for White and MacDonald, they've both been sentenced to life for Serbu's murder. White will serve a minimum of 16 years and MacDonald will serve a minimum of 18 years before parole is considered. The Maidstone Crown Court heard today that the three had gone to steal a lawnmower on the 6th of May last year before attacking Serbu with a meat cleaver. Judge Jeremy Carey called it a shameless and senseless attack mindless brutality. And in the convictions on Monday, Razvan Serbu's mother said how devastated she was at the loss of her son.
I miss him very much, and as my only child, he will always be part of me.
Yeah, and there's not been too much so far about what the motives were from the attack. Detective Chief Inspector Tony Pledger from Kent Police, he said that it was an appalling and cowardly attack, but the reasons behind it so far remain unclear, and it seems from what has been said that it was an attack that didn't really have much motive behind it, and a terrible attack that's devastated the life of Serbu's family.
Harry, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Now, car manufacturing giants Ford has said they will invest £8 billion in electric vehicles for the next 5 years. The American firm plans to have 40 hybrid and fully electric vehicles available by 2022. So, with a clear move forward towards electrical powered vehicles, we've been to Chatham to ask people if they'll consider switching away from petrol and diesel.
I don't think I would, not for a long time. I don't think there's the infrastructure here for it. I don't think that it's affordable. The technology is there yet to make it worthwhile. There's not enough places to plug in.
Yes, I would get an electric car because I actually take public transport because of the environment, and I think that the electric cars would help the environment.
I definitely would, yeah. Thinking about it environmentally wise, I definitely would.
I would get one, but it's just no point really. It does save on petrol and that, but it's would you have to charge it overnight, and it's more money for electricity.
My husband and I, we are thinking about getting one. We have booked one VW, so we're going to get it in April.
I think there's going to be a few people who will sort of like probably stay petrol. I mean, obviously electric cars are going to be very expensive.
Yeah, I think so. It will be interesting because, I think like I've read in the news, it probably save the environment from pollution of, gas. So, it will be interesting. I think it will be interesting.
Shoppers in Chatham there, but what do you think? Could your next car purchase be electric? Join the debate on social media using the hashtag KentSays. Now, there's been more than 3,500 reported cases of fly tipping in Medway. That's according to new figures from DEFRA, which also ranked the area as the third worst in the entire South East for 2017. The council have said they're looking to enforce heftier penalties on those caught fly tipping. Cameron Tucker has this report.
Medway had the highest number of reported fly tipping incidents in Kent between April 2016 and March 2017. According to DEFRA, the area is the third worst in the South East, behind Southampton and Milton Keynes, with more than 3,600 incidents costing £250,000 in clean-up costs. Rosebery Road in Gillingham is a notorious fly tipping hotspot. Disused tyres, abandoned television sets and items of furniture line this stretch of Gillingham Road. The figures released by DEFRA not only show that Medway had the highest number of reported fly tipping incidents last year, but that it was also an increase of 78 cases from the previous year. Thanet was second in the county, having spent more than £236,000 on almost 1,800 cases, followed by Gravesham, who spent just above £141,000 on around 2,200 cases. In total, £1.3 million was spent on cleaning up 20,000 cases of fly tipping across Kent.
It's totally unacceptable, because it affects people's lives, and it really does. Not just the cost, because we all bear the brunt of the cost of having to clean this up, but it's also about the place that you live. Many people in Medway get really upset that where they work to make their living conditions very pleasant, very nice, they invest in their houses, only to suffer from this type of behaviour. The fact that we've had a lot of instances is disappointing. It doesn't surprise me, in as much as there are lots of fly tippers that leave small amounts rather than these very large drops of building materials, etc. So there are a lot of different examples of fly tipping.
In response to the findings, the councillor says there'll be a greater level of enforcement to tackle the issue.
Rest assured, we are already doing that, and there have been some very substantial fines on people that have fly tipped. We rely very much on information, and we do get it from people that live in an area. They see a car doing something, or they see a van doing something, and if they take the number of that vehicle and pass it on to us, we will act. But we also act very, very quickly in getting and clearing that rubbish away.
If you've witnessed an incident of fly tipping, you can report it to the council at 01634 333 333. Cameron Tucker, KMTV, Medway.
A reminder, you can watch Kent Tonight live and on catch-up at our website kmtv.co.uk. You can stay up to date with all the news, sport and weather from right across Kent, whenever and wherever you are. You'll find breaking news, local features and repeats of our special programmes. Coming up after the break, we visit a Shetland pony who was found dumped and neglected by a charity on New Year's Eve and who's recovering in Kent. Don't go away.
Pitiful. Yeah, it made us cry actually, and I suppose you do get slightly hardened to, you've got to be brave, you've got to face on to help these horses that are suffering, yeah, she was definitely needing help.
Welcome back to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. Now, a pony that was found dumped, neglected and starving on New Year's Eve has been taken in by a rescue charity near Tonbridge. Saru, the Shetland pony, was found near Erith, but's now on the road to recovery here in Kent. Louisa Britton's been to meet her.
This was the terrible condition a Kent animal charity found a pony after she was left dumped and starving in a field near Erith. The pony was found with thousands of burrs all over her body after a member of the public called the charity to take her in, but she's now doing a lot better. Well, this is Saru, a 15-year-old Shetland pony who was found and taken in by Kent's Horse Rescue Charity after she was found severely neglected on New Year's Eve. She's been here since then, and Jane Brown, who works for the Kent's Horse Rescue Charity, says she seems to be recovering well, despite what a deplorable condition she was found in.
It made us cry actually, and I suppose you do get slightly hardened to, you've got to be brave, you've got to face on to help these horses that are suffering, yeah, she was definitely needing help. She probably had about 3,000 burrs literally matted into her coat, round her genitals, and it was just horrendous. She needed help, and we got there and realised this was an emergency. It didn't matter that it was New Year's Eve, we just had to do it. I just wanted to love her, I just wanted to feed her and give her water and just all the things that she needed. She just needed absolutely everything straight away.
Even now, the charity knows very little about where she comes from and who her previous owner was, as she isn't microchipped and no one has come forward. The charity, which was set up in 2015 and rescued 31 horses last year, wants Saru's case to help raise awareness of the struggle it faces during the winter. As Jane says, they get about 6 calls a day regarding horses' welfare in the county.
We are indeed, again, on the front line. So it's a question of, oh God, when's the phone going to ring? How many more horses are suffering? The ones that we don't know about. And then that all catches up with itself, and it is incredibly busy, and we are tired.
The Kent Horse Rescue Charity is funded by donations, and this time of year is particularly busy as the cost of feed and care increases.
During the winter period, it is the worst, absolute worst. The value in the grass is not very good, so that doesn't provide a good nutritional diet for the horses, and it doesn't grow. So if they're on barren land, it's only going to get worse.
With Saru being taken care of here, it's hoped she'll be able to recover fully and even find a new home soon. This is Louisa Britton for KMTV.
Now, Joe Denley's impressive form has continued down under whilst there's a Kent derby at the Gallagher. With more, Keelan has the sport.
Maidstone and Gillingham face off for the first time since 1992 this evening in the quarter-finals of the Kent Senior Cup. The tie, which took place 25 years ago, finished 1-1 in the old 4th Division. Gills boss Steve Lovell is set to field a predominantly youthful side, but Maidstone manager Jay Saunders won't be making too many changes following a 2-1 win over Heybridge Swifts on Saturday.
To be honest, we'll be pretty strong because we haven't got a big enough squad to rest sort of 7 or 8. So it's one to look forward to. I'm sure there'll be a half-decent crowd here, and yeah, it'd be good. It'd be good to have them down. Whatever side they bring down, it'll be a good test because if they bring young lads, they've got good youth there that want to impress the first team gaffer. So I'm sure whatever they bring down will be a good test for us.
Cricket now, and Kent opener Joe Denley featured for the Sydney Sixers as they won their second game in the Big Bash League this morning. The Sixers cruised to victory by 8 wickets, with Denley scoring 13 as he opened the batting. The Kent batsman also bowled an over of leg spin, which only went for 4 runs. It follows an impressive debut from Denley at the weekend, where his quick-fire 40 helped the Sixers to their inaugural victory of the tournament against Sydney Thunder. That's it in sport for now. I'll have a look ahead to the rest of this evening's fixtures later on in the programme.
Now, a company near Maidstone that has made trophies for Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton says it faces uncertainty thanks to Brexit. As well as sporting stars, Ufford Awards in Bearsted makes trophies for hundreds of local sports teams. Harry Pete has more.
Ford Awards in Bearsted has been supplying trophies across Kent and beyond for more than 30 years. Initially set up by former Gills player and Maidstone manager Andy Ford, the business has gone on to have great success.
I got involved around 15 years ago, and yeah, we've steadily grown from a team of 3 to 4 guys to now we employ over 20-25 people in peak season. So we do trophies from grassroots football to golf trophies, all the way up to sort of high-end motorsport awards. And it's not just the Gills link that's the business's star connection. So this is the Formula One trophy that we had made for the Silverstone GP back in 2016 now. So they ordered 3 awards. This is the winner's trophy. So this is the one that Lewis Hamilton actually won. Yeah, it's bespokely made on a silver base. And yeah, it was very good to be able to see somebody like Lewis picking up one of our trophies. The process for many of the trophies begins live behind the scenes in the workshop, where the awards start live as a picture on a computer.
Customer obviously chooses which one they want. They send in the artwork directly to us. We convert it into an engravable format, and just generally you send the machine over to touch the material on the surface of the cup, and then basically just engraves it.
So here we have it, one of the latest trophies to come off the engraver. I think it looks pretty good, but keeping this top quality up, as well as rivaling the cheaper online prices, has proved to be a challenge in recent years.
Online and in the UK there are some other obviously trophy and awards companies. I think there are other European countries which are trying to look in on the UK market, but yeah, I feel fairly confident moving forward that we're in a good position.
Brexit looks like it could have a big impact on businesses too, and for the trophy industry that's no different.
Import from Poland, Italy, those places. So with regards to Brexit and any tariffs coming in, currently obviously it's very easy. We can order stuff, it can come in with next day, and if suddenly it's a more complicated process, that could actually hinder us.
But whatever the future holds, if we keep on succeeding, the trophy business will keep on winning. Harry P for KMTV in Bearsted.
Next tonight, the chair of Arts Council England has said the arts must do more to embrace diversity. Sir Nicholas Sirota said that this issue was crucial to the way in which society and the arts connect. He warned that opportunity must not be confined to a smaller and self-selecting demographic. Well, to talk a little bit more about diversity in the arts here in Kent, I'm joined by Carol Stewart from the Medway African and Caribbean Association. So thanks very much for joining us.
Hi.
So has your association worked in the arts arts, and are you surprised by what's been said?
I'm not surprised. I think organisations do find it a bit hard to apply for funding. I mean, our organisation, MAC, is quite small, been around for over 30 years, and we applied for Heritage Lottery funding a few years ago, and it took us a while. And I think we wanted to make sure we had a solid infrastructure in place. And those things take time to build up, because and making sure that you use the right wording, that you understand the criteria fully, that you're able to have a system in place where you can manage those funds, getting partners on board. And I think sometimes they just need to try and reach out to organisations, offer a little bit more support. I mean, HLF are really good. They have a lot of surgeries, across the county as well. And we work with some bigger organisations where, it's our first experience of handling such large amounts of funding. So drawing upon support from other organisations, I found was a big help.
And do you think it needs to be spoken more like this to make sure that something's done?
I think definitely they could do more by do more outreach into organisations. I know other funding organisations that contact us directly. They're often sort of letting us know about different pockets of funding, which is really good. But I think having more support to actually make those funding applications. There are organisations out there that will quite happily do that on a commission basis, but then there's no guarantee. You're spending a lot of money to pay for a consultant, and there's no guarantee you're going to get the funding at the end of it. So it's not good for them, and it's certainly not good for the organisation. So I think it's about maybe having more support to enable smaller charities, particularly from BME organisations, to make those applications.
And what about the arts in particular? How important do you think it is that diversity is in the arts?
Oh, definitely. When you look at the whole of African and Caribbean culture is very artistic in its nature, and MACA as an organisation has done quite a number of sort of art events. In fact, we're planning some events over the summer that we'll be looking to get some Arts Council funding for. But I think it's very important because it's a means to bring people together from different walks of life, and to learn about and respect other people's and value other people's cultures as well. So certainly in our organisation, the arts is very important. I think it's an intrinsic part of sort of like community life, and so bring in people from all ages, all backgrounds together. I think we need to be doing more of it.
Well, Carol, thanks ever so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now it's time for the weather. Well, it's set to be a clear evening tonight with some clouds over Chatham and Tonbridge Wells into tomorrow morning, and the skies will remain cloud-free for most of the county, but temperatures will only improve a little with highs of 4. And into the afternoon, things will remain much the same, but those clouds over Chatham should clear up. Looking to the rest of the week, and overcast conditions will return to the county. There's also a yellow weather warning for tomorrow, as we're expecting to see high winds throughout the county. Coming up after the break, we visit a Northfleet brewery, which has become the first to produce beer in the borough for almost a century. Don't go away.
Northfleet, our local little neighbourhood area, the last brewery here was in 1905, I believe, which for somewhere with so many pubs seems unusual.
Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Andy Richards. Your top stories on Tuesday, the 16th of January. Bottom of the league. National survey says Kent has the worst train services in the country.
I used to commute. I'm retired now. I used to commute, and there's nothing fun about it. It's just expensive. It's overcrowded.
It's a tip. Medway's fly tipping problem. Councils say they will take action if you offend.
It's totally unacceptable because it affects people's lives, and it really does, not just the cost.
On the road to recovery, dumped pony taken in by charity after it was found starving on New Year's Eve.
She needed help, and we got there and realised this was an emergency. It didn't matter that it was New Year's Eve, we just had to do it.
And in sport, Gillingham and Maidstone face off for the first time in 25 years. We look ahead to the Kent derby.
Two major train operators which run services throughout Kent have been rated the worst in Britain. In a survey by which 25 providers across the country, including South Eastern and Southern, were ranked on different aspects, including customer satisfaction, value for money and condition of carriages. Here's Poppy Jeffrey.
Commuters have expressed their anger at South Eastern and Southern rail services. Passengers have voted the providers as the two worst rail companies in Britain. In a survey by which, of all 25 in the country, Southern was bottom and South Eastern was second to last. And the survey comes after both announced record rises in the cost of tickets.
Sometimes things do go wrong. One of the issues South Eastern are very much aware of and are working closely with Network Rail to put right is trying to get the service back on time when things do go wrong. But Kent County Council regards the rail service as a very important part of our transport network in Kent. It's vital getting people to and from London and other places of work, as well as people travelling for leisure and education as well.
South Eastern, which runs the majority of Kent's services, said,
"We are dedicated to making journeys better for our passengers and have invested over £70 million in improving customer service training, train reliability and station facilities as part of a long-term plan for change."
Now, Louisa Britton joins us to talk a little bit more about this story. So first of all, Louisa, Which, who conducted the survey, they're really highly respected, aren't they?
They are. They're often a consumer magazine that people turn to when it comes to buying lots of different things. So for these two rail companies to be rated at the bottom is quite a big blow. But in terms of, obviously, because we've also got a statement from Southern. Obviously, Southern covers particularly Tonbridge, the Tonbridge area for Kent. So South Eastern covers most of Kent in other areas. We've also had a statement from them as a result of the surveys. They've said that much of the disruption on Southern Rail has been caused by union opposition. Obviously, we've heard a lot about the strikes that have been going on alongside for Southern, but the which analysis, they say, fails to take into account the unique and complex challenges that face Govia Thameslink Railway compared to other train operators. So that's just the other side of what they're saying. But they say that services are improving. Obviously, we heard earlier this year about how prices were going up, and that caused a bit of controversy in terms of commuters having to pay more for their rail fares. But they say that services are improving, and they'll introduce an enhanced train timetable in May to help passengers and give them better reliability.
Well, Louisa, thanks very much indeed. More misery for commuters. Thank you. Now, don't forget that you can keep up to date on all things going on in Kent by visiting our website, kmtv.co.uk. You can check out some of our latest stories from across the county, like this video from last week when we visited the historic dockyard Chatham to find out more about a very special Union Jack that went up for auction.
Setting sail in 1765, HMS Victory was built here in Kent at the Chatham Dockyard and went on to be one of the Royal Navy's most recognisable and iconic ships. But despite having more than 100 guns and costing the modern day equivalent of £8 million to build, it's the ship's flags that could be fetching big numbers at auction. When this piece of flag goes on sale next week, it could go for at least £80,000. And it too was made in the sail and colour loft at the dockyard.
And there's a very high likelihood that it's a Chatham-made flag. Victory was refitted for sea before Trafalgar here, almost certainly had a new suite of sails and a new set of flags. And it's great to see a little bit of Chatham's history still causing waves in 2018.
Similar items from the Battle of Trafalgar have sold for almost £400,000. The fragment of flag up for sale next week was originally meant to be buried with Admiral Nelson's body, but sailors had other ideas.
Nelson's body was brought back on Victory to Britain and then taken to lay in state at Greenwich before the funeral in St Paul's. And one of the flags that had been flying from Victory, or reputed to have been flying from Victory, was used to cover the coffin. And then, as you say, the sailors that were there as part of the escort coffin bearers after the ceremony at St Paul's are reputed to have torn the flag into pieces and taken them as souvenirs.
The building today is much more modern than it ever was and is now mostly used for offices, but there's still some clues about its past. Take this sewing machine, for example. This would have been used by some workers from here in Chatham to make sails and flags for the Navy, including HMS Victory.
It was the hub really of the sewing operation in the dockyard. When signal flags came into use and nationality flags increasingly over the period, we believe that the sailmakers took on the role of flag making, and in time that became a profession done by ladies of the flag loft, reputed to be the widows of sailors and dockyard men who were employed to sew flags.
The flag, like the Victory herself, is another piece of Kent history that's still capturing imaginations today. Harry Peat for KMTV in Chatham.
Gravesham's first brewery to open in 80 years has been set up in Northfleet. For almost a century, the borough had no brewery, as the last one closed in the early 1930s. The Iron Pier Brewery officially opened last week, and Louisa Britton's been to pay them a visit.
James Hayward and Charlie Venner have only been producing beer here for the last few months and have just opened their taproom here in Northfleet. Although Kent has often been referred to as one of the hop counties, for almost a century the Gravesham borough was without a brewery, despite having many pubs in the area. So the founders of Iron Pier say they wanted to bring brewing back to Gravesham, as they say they love the area and there's really strong historical links with the beer industry, which they believe need to be preserved.
It's an honour, I guess, as well, because it's really needed and necessary. There's such a tradition and just a really historical town that needs that legacy taken on, really, and it's an honour to do it.
It was the home of hops, probably still is. I think last year hop acreage grew in the UK for the first time in, I think since like 1890 or something like that. So yeah, Kent's always had that history of hops. We've got some really good brewers in the county. And yeah, it's just a good place to be brewing.
Iron Pier Brewery and Taproom opened here in 2 units on the May Avenue Industrial Estate and has become the borough's first beer producer since the Russell's Brewery was turned into a bottling plant after being bought in 1932, bringing the borough's ties to the beer industry to an end. But James and Charlie, along with their other business partner John Walden, believe there's been a resurgence in small-sized pubs and breweries over the last few years, something they're hoping to capitalise on.
Northfleet, our local little neighbourhood area, the last brewery here was in 1905, I believe, which for somewhere with so many pubs seems unusual. And I think now you're seeing much more of a reversion now back to the smaller breweries. But yeah, hopefully local is going to be the thing for a while, hopefully for us.
The site, which takes its name from Town Pier in Gravesend, the world's oldest cast iron jetty, produces 180 barrels a week. That's more than 12,000 pints. Although at one point there were 4 breweries in the district, it's hoped it will be a welcome addition to Gravesham's links to the beer industry. This is Louisa Britton for KMTV in Northfleet.
Now, American car company Ford have said they plan to invest billions of dollars in manufacturing electric cars. The plans come as the government aim to push drivers away from purchasing petrol and diesel-powered vehicles. But are the plans likely to work, and do you think we'll all be driving electric cars in the near future? We are shoppers in Chatham.
A long way off, I think, because it's like the vegetable oil, was it? Idea. The oil companies, they find one way or another to try and squash those ideas, you know.
Not everyone likes change, but I think, some people would change. They will make a change, but not everybody will change, because some people like to keep to their old routine.
Where I live on a main road. It's so few me. So I think electric cars definitely the future.
Some people that will like the old-fashioned petrol because some people like the old-fashioned things like technology.
It's going to take a little time, but I guess it's really good for environment. So I can see in future probably gradually people will catch up with that.
Eventually it's inevitable, yeah, because fossil fuels are going to run out. They're going to get more and more expensive. And yes, but right now, the infrastructure, the support and the technology isn't there to make it worthwhile just yet.
Things take a little while. I've just put my bus ticket on my mobile, and that's been available for 2 years. So we will get to it. It's like church. If you put it out there, we will come. We're not always coming, not every week. But if you're there, if you put the electric cars there, we'll use them.
Shoppers in Chatham there, but what do you think? Will we ever ditch petrol and diesel cars for good? Let us know using the hashtag KentSays on social media. Now, coming up after the break, the humble potato. We'll be hearing from a Kent producer who supplies thousands of spuds to big name brands. We'll be back soon. Welcome back to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV on Tuesday, the 16th of January, in case you missed it. Commuters say train services are the worst in the country.
Not anything that really the staff do. I know a couple of people that work there and they all try and do their best.
Medway Council say they will take action if you flight it.
It's totally unacceptable because it affects people's lives, and it really does, not just the cost.
On the mend, poor pony taken in Kent after it was found starving to death.
I just wanted to love her. I just wanted to feed her and give her water and just all the things that she needed.
And in sport, it's 2 games and 2 wins for Kent batsman Joe Denley in Australia's Big Bash.
Time now for your pick of the papers with a look at what's making the news in print, online and radio across Kent. Earlier on today, I spoke to the KM Group's Sandra Hembry, who started off by telling me about a Paddock Wood school with a case of meningitis.
The first story is a serious story of a health issue, which is at Maskell's Academy in Paddock Wood. A teacher there has gone down with meningitis and has unfortunately had to be hospitalised in the last 24 hours. But the school has moved to reassure parents and said that the risk of contamination is very, very slim. But they have advised all the authorities and they've told people and they've worked with them as a precaution.
Sandra, thanks very much. And your second story today?
Yes, the second story is about, I think, an amazing man, someone called Hassan Zubier. Now, he is from Dartford, but he was, I don't know if you remember, last August, there was a terror attack in Turku, in Finland, and this Hassan Zubier was over there. He's a paramedic, 46 years old. He happened to be over there at the time, and this woman had been very badly injured and she was bleeding, and he went and he tried to stem the flow of blood and tried to save her life, and in the process he was stabbed himself 4 times. Now unfortunately Hassan is in a wheelchair and he will need help now from here on in, and he has a young family. So they've actually trying to raise money. And so far, of the £100,000 target, they've raised £22,000. So they're really keen, the people who have got this fund, to raise money. Where you can raise money is on the story on Kent Online website, so you can go in there if you're particularly interested in obviously donating to this incredibly brave man.
Yeah, an amazing cause, definitely.
Absolutely.
And your third story, Sandra?
Third story goes to my very heart, which is shopping. And Blue Water, which obviously at one stage was Europe's largest shopping centre, is still an incredibly big landmark and obviously focal point for people on a day trip. They are now getting a Primark.
And it was a bit controversial, wasn't it? There are lots of people who had something to say about it.
Yes, because does it fit with Blue Water? Doesn't it fit with Blue Water? And people were saying, well, I don't know whether this is the right thing for Blue Water, but it's going to be an incredibly big store, 60,000 square feet.
Wow.
Across 2 floors, between House of Fraser and All Saints. So wow. A huge attraction, I suppose, makes it more of a one-stop shop.
Sandra, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, 3 Kent teams are into the last 16 of the FA Trophy, with more on the draw for the next round. Here's Keelan with the sport. First of all, though, Keelan, a big Kent derby tonight that we don't see that often.
No, it's been 25 years, as I was saying a little bit earlier on about Maidstone against Gillingham tonight at the Gallagher Stadium. And I think it'll be quite an even contest because Gillingham will rotate quite heavily. Two players that won't be involved, though. Jesse Starkey has left the club today at the expiry of his contract. And they've also mutually agreed to terminate the contract of goalkeeper Steve Arnold, who has been at the club. He's been about third choice and and he's just not been getting any game time. So it'll be an opportunity probably for Stuart Nelson to come into the team today, as well as some other youngsters. Jay Saunders, as we heard earlier, probably won't make too many changes, and that's why it should be quite an even contest and should be an intriguing one, most certainly. As for Ebbsfleet, they have got a game tonight against Warrington, a replay in the FA Trophy. The draw for the last 16 was made yesterday, and should Ebbsfleet progress, they'll face a trip to Wealdstone of the National League South. Maidstone and Dover have already booked their places in the next round and face tough ties. With more, here's the KM Group Steve Turley.
Dover drawing at home to Leyton Orient, which is one of the ties of the round, really. They drew up at Orient in the league earlier in the season. Terrific game. Obviously, Orient, big club at that level, and Justin Edinburgh, the manager now. So that'll be a big game. And Maidstone also drawn at home. They've got to wait for the winner of the replay between Gateshead and Borehamwood. So again, they'll be playing a side at their level. It's going to be a tougher game than they've had in the previous round, but home advantage, they'd be happy with that.
It's set to be a clear evening tonight with some clouds over Chatham and Tonbridge Wells into tomorrow morning, and the skies will remain cloud-free for most of the county, and into the afternoon things will remain much the same. Those clouds over Chatham should clear up. Looking to the rest of the week, and overcast conditions will return to the county, with Thursday looking the warmest day of the week with highs of 11. And watch out for that yellow weather warning that's coming in tomorrow, because there's going to be some high winds. And finally, it's time for Made in Kent, where we take a look at the county's tasty treats and delicious drinks. In a minute, we'll be trying out a range of Provenance potatoes, who produce thousands of spuds for household names. But before that, Cameron Tucker saw how Provenance potatoes are stored, washed and packed ready for our plates.
In this week's Made in Kent, we're talking potatoes, and I've come here to Provenance potatoes, which is spread across East Kent. Now, this field I'm standing in was ploughed last September, and in April will be planted with King Edward potatoes. By the summer, this field will be teeming with spuds, ready for a September harvest. Across from the Thanet field is a cold store holding approximately 1,000 tonnes of Desiree potatoes from last summer. A matter of degrees can make a difference on the final product.
These are fresh potatoes, so they're being held in here at 2.5 to 3 degrees centigrade. But if they were frying potatoes for the chip shop, for example, they would be being held at 7.5 to 8 degrees in order to give that nice golden fry colour that people like out of chip shops.
After storage, the spuds are shipped to the outskirts of Deal, where they are washed and graded. The bad ones don't make the cut, while those which do are bagged and distributed as far away as the Midlands.
We started off quite small. 2012 was a very hard-growing season, so there wasn't much about. That helped us start up because potatoes weren't plentiful. And we were about sort of 7,000 tonnes then. We were up to about 11,000 now for this season.
While the business has expanded, this season's proven to be tough, with Tracy predicting difficult returns for farmers. The team at Provenance, however, are hoping a focus on sustainability and being consumer-led will keep the business growing.
Well, Tracy Bush and Graham Skinner from Provenance Potatoes join me now. So, thanks very much for joining us. Tell us what you brought in today.
Well, we've decided to show how versatile potatoes are. So we've done a leek potato soup, jacket potatoes, very healthy wedges, potato dauphinoise, mashed potato of course, and then a cake made with mashed potato which is gluten-free.
So you've got starter, main course and dessert. That's pretty impressive.
Full
potatoes.
smorgasbord of dishes. I'm going to go in and give the wedges a go, but just so I do that, tell us about some of the flavours and the varieties of potatoes that we're going to be trying here.
The wedges here are made out of an old favourite called King Edward, which is quite a floury potato. So varieties such as King Edward or Maris Piper, they're quite floury, lend themselves to wedges and chips especially, things like that.
Yeah, it's a lot lighter, it's got quite a light taste to it as well. And there's obviously, we're in the Garden of England, there's quite a lot of potato producers out there. What is it about you guys that makes you stand out from those producers?
Well, we grow particular varieties, so like that one's Desiree, very creamy mash, and we grow to our sort of the sort of land as well, don't we? What grows well, what will produce a really good end result more than anything. We don't like just growing any variety. A potato isn't just a potato; it's very varietal specific. But also, I think we are quite a we sort of share the wealth type company, and we give back. So we try and get sustainable growing. So it's not just about making loads of money, it's making it work for the grower as well.
And we've heard in the office a lot how cold it is at the moment. How has the temperature affected you guys? Has it been difficult?
This time of year it's quite a benefit because most of the main crop potatoes in store, so we'll be blowing outside air to keep them cool, for example. So it's actually this time of year being cold is quite a benefit. Also gets rid of pests and diseases and things like that. So potato growers, what they would like is a dry, warm spring, a reasonably wet summer, but not too wet, and a nice dry harvest period. So at this time of year, they'd be quite happy with the cold weather, I would suggest.
And you've got to tell us about this cake. I've never known potato to be in a cake. Tell us about that.
Well, it came about because I've got a friend who's got celiacs, and I was looking for something that was gluten-free, and I came across mashed potato used instead of flour, so gave it a go, and it worked really well. So I thought, well, I'll bring one in today because nobody, and you were saying, nobody associates potatoes with sweet, the sweet course or cakes. So that's it really, and it's very simple to make. What did you think?
No, it's delicious. It's very. You wouldn't know that the potatoes are in there. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You can't taste mashed potato in it.
Well, guys, that's great. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. And that's just about it for us from the Kent Tonight team. We'll be back again tomorrow. But for now, it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.